Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today we're going to be talking about what would actually fix Dead by Daylight, because for a lot of the game's history, people have had a lot of ideas about how Dead by Daylight has been, going downhill, and it seems to be in a spot where it's not very fun, and people have always said it's not very fun, and it keeps getting worse. And a lot of people have put out like really long, like 20-30 minute videos talking about like, okay, we need to just fundamentally from the top to the bottom just rip the game up by its toes and just like change its entire DNA. And I've watched so many of those videos, and you've seen them on the reacts. We've watched so many videos of people's ideas on how to like fix Dead by Daylight, quote unquote. And it's usually just like essentially just like creating a whole nother game and going like so off the rails that it's like not even essentially, like I said, it's just creating a whole nother game. It's creating a whole nother ASIM and just putting it inside Dead by Daylight. And you'll often see that a lot of people pull from other ASIMs when they're trying to make adjustments to Dead by Daylight or make these fixed Dead by Daylight videos as well. But the long and the short of it is that it's actually something that's a lot simpler than you think it is, which is the reason that Dead by Daylight doesn't feel good and really feels like crap, and it's what brings a lot of like volatility from the community. And realistically, I'm going to say this first and foremost, it's really not the community at all. We, as a community, can't really do anything here. And it's not really our fault or our responsibility to fix the game here, which is good, which is a good thing, because I think a lot of people do point to the fact that they're like, oh, well, it's a community thing. Like, oh, well, if we just acted better, we had a better attitude, or like if we held people more accountable, like, nah, nothing to do with the community. There's nothing we can do here. And it actually lies entirely on the devs. So what do I mean by that? Let's go ahead and talk about it. So, the key word that we're going to be talking about today is consistency. Consistency is important in most things in life, friendships, relationships, work relationships, anything. Any sort of connection that you have with other people, or especially a product that you're putting out, like Dead by Daylight, consistency is important. You need to know what to expect from another person or another thing or a product that you bought with a certain expectation in mind. Having that consistency is important. Very, very important. Matter of fact, that consistency is the main thing that I go for when we're talking about the match reviews that we do. When we do the match reviews, and what I'm trying to train you to do is be more consistent. I'm not trying to make you 4K every single game, because that, honestly is, while more realistic than you think, not actually that realistic. I'm just wanting you to be more consistent, get more towards that 80-90% win rate. But just have that level of consistency. Consistency, TLDR, is important in everything. It's something that is sorely lacking in Dead by Daylight in almost every aspect. And I understand that it is an RNG-based game. Like what map you get, every single map itself has its own RNG that it can spawn with. I mean, just look at Wretched Shop. It can spawn like 8 pallets or 20 pallets. That is a vastly different scenario in terms of killer versus survivor sidedness. Like 8 pallets is way different than 20 pallets. Like that's a crazy amount of RNG. Matter of fact, I wish they would kind of like make that a little bit more consistent, but that's not what the video is about. But this isn't what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the general ASIM nature of the game. I'm not talking about the general RNG nature of the game. What I am actually talking about here is the consistency to game design. The consistency to game design. It's the devs themselves, at least it doesn't appear to, have a very, very strong sense of consistency when it comes to their game design and in terms of philosophy and when they're designing something. Let's look at some maps. Let's look at an idea of maps, because map design is certainly something that DBD, for example, has not had a very, very strong sense of consistency when it comes to. Let's take a look at something like the swamp maps. The swamp maps initially released much bigger than they are now, and Dead by Daylight said those maps are too big. Let's shrink them down a little bit. Makes sense, because typically bigger maps kind of allow for a lot of frustration on the killer side of things, unless you have a movement ability, and make survivors run farther for gens. It's kind of just like big maps in this game like often err more on the side of frustration for players than it does on the side of happiness for players. The only people who kind of benefits are like really immersed survivors. That's basically the only people who enjoy those, but you don't immerse as much as you brand new players immerse, but like as you play more, the immersion kind of goes away. So like it seemed at first, or at least initially, they're like, okay, well, big maps bad, which is a fair statement. I think big maps, I agree with that. Big maps typically are worse for the game's design. And then they released maps that are way bigger than that since then. Like not even just once, but consistently, they released maps way bigger than the swamp size rework that they did ever since that point. So that's like, wait a minute. So you said big maps are bad, But then after that point, you release maps that are bigger than that. So like, I thought you just said big maps are bad, but now you're releasing maps that are bigger than that. So like, were big maps actually bad? And you see that even today is where like they looked at like Mother's Dwelling, which is infamously one of the biggest maps in the game. And they reworked the whole map. And then they're just like, okay, well, like that huge size is fine. The fact that it's that freaking big, and which has been its biggest complaint ever since that map has been out, is like, why is this map so freaking huge? If you're not playing a movement killer, like you're just hosed. Like, they didn't change it. They reworked the entire map graphically and did not touch the size. Now, I guess in all fairness, they said that they ran out of time doing those reworks. So I guess they could have had it maybe in the pipeline that they were adjusting the size maybe, and they just ran out of time for it. But that's all just conjecture, realistically. But yeah, they did not adjust the size of the map. So like, I guess this whole idea that they had that big map bad just kind of went away. And I don't get that. And it gets even worse too, because one of the things that Behavior has openly said as one of the reasons they're doing all these map reworks is not just graphically, but for a balanced perspective. They're trying to make the maps more fair. Take recently, that's coming out, that'll be out. Yeah, that'll already be out by the time of, I'm recording in the past. That'll be out already. The Rancid Abattoir and the Fractured Cowshed adjustments are being made in the sense of balance. They're not being made for the sense of aesthetic. They're being made to make the game more balanced, specifically, especially with the Fractured Cowshed situation. They're trying to make the maps more balanced in the sense of it's easier for killers to deal with, especially Fractured Cowshed, which is one infamously like the top 5, survivor maps in the game. They're trying to balance it more towards killer. So if that's been their philosophy for a bit here, is like, it seems like maps are very, very hard to traverse for killers that don't have movement options or aggressive M2s. People like, Myers, people like Trapper, like Pig, looking at those kind of weaker killers on the roster and trying to make the maps more fair for them. Why, in the past couple of years, have we gotten maps like Garden of Joy or the Decimated Borgo, which are extremely strong survivor maps? Why then? Where is the design philosophy here? You said, okay, well, we're gonna rework these maps because we feel like they're too unbalanced and they're too unfair, especially for weaker killers. But then, in the past couple of years, we've put out like Decimated Borgo and Garden of Joy and stuff, which are some of the most aggressively survivor sided maps in the game. Like, where is the design philosophy here? Where is the design philosophy? And the answer is like, either it's very loose or they just don't have one. There's just no consistency there. There's no consistency. Let's look at another great example. Let's look at add-on design. Add-on design is another big one. Wesker, despite how you feel about that character, has an amazing add-on design. Amazing add-on design. There's uses for his browns. There's uses for his yellows. There's uses for his greens. There's usually like all of his add-ons are good. Not even in the sense of like, they have different levels of usefulness in terms of like, performing well, but they all like, are interesting or change his play style. Like from the top to the bottom, his add-ons are all great. Like his add-on design was like near perfect. Some change his play style, some just give him buffs, some change the way he plays. Like it's just really good add-on design. But then you'll take a look at that, like the recent add-on changes that they're doing to Sadako, where they're reworking a bunch of her add-ons in terms with her power change. And her add-on design was okay-ish, I'd say. Like, she didn't have the worst add-on design in the game, like compared to like Pyramid Head, who has like 2 add-ons that are only useful. But like Sadako had okay-ish map design. She had okay-ish add-on design. And then they just kind of like changed things, and it's not for the better. I think her add-ons in general are generally not better, and they already were only okay to begin with. So it's just like, how do you have somebody like Wesker, who you made fairly recently, who has near perfect add-on design, and now you're doing an add-on rework for a character, and this character's add-ons were already only okay, and now you're making her add-ons for the most part worse. Like, why didn't you try to do like something more on lines of what you did with Wesker or Sadako if you're going to be giving her an add-on update? Like, I just don't get it. But like that's the problem. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is there seems to be no design philosophy, or very, very loose design philosophy that they don't adhere to or they don't care about. What they really need to do in order to quote unquote fix DBD is they need to sit down and get a general idea of what these things look like and what they want them to look like, and adhere to these principles and not switch them up chapter to chapter. Because it seems like we will get a good idea and then we'll go, okay, good job, behavior. And then we won't see that good idea again for like another 3 to 6 to 9 months, if not more, because they just, it doesn't seem like they did it on purpose. Like a perfect example with the Wesker add-on design, like even though like Knight and Skull Merchant's add-on designs are okay, they're definitely not like crazy fun or dynamic like Wesker's. So like, and we're already up on Larry now. We're already up on Larry, and Larry's add-on design is pretty lukewarm as well. It's just like they just said, okay, well, we're just gonna put out this banger and then just kind of like, I don't know, phone it in for like the next 3 killers. Like, what happened? Where did that cool add-on design philosophy go? What if that was like a principle? If that was something that they, that they had to strictly adhere to, and go, okay, well, we need add-on design to be more like what we did with Wesker. And you apply that to the next 3 killers, the next 3 killers would have much better add-on design. But it was just kind of something that seemingly happened by accident or just by happenstance, and they're just like, okay, well, it's cool. We did a good job with that. Let's just hope we knock it out of the park next time, right? Like, and not even like learning from their experiences or trying to follow any guidelines. And it would be the same thing with like maps, right? Like why is Toba Landing a giant football field with like all these like like it's just, if you had some sort of like design philosophy when it comes to how you design maps rather than just, oh, oops, all aesthetic, and you actually had okay, well, maps should generally be like this. They should have A, B, C. They shouldn't be too big. They shouldn't be too small. Like, just some general principles to follow. Like, I feel like the consistency that they could put into this game would make people love this game way more and make it not feel like such a broken, terrible mess and make it feel like the devs are incompetent all the time. Because even if, like, their sense of consistency was, like, awkward or not necessarily what you wanted, at least you could understand what they were going for. You could at least get like the idea of what they were aiming for, and you could work with their idea, right? But like the reason it feels so crappy for almost everybody is because it feels like everybody's getting hosed. It feels like Sadako mains are mad because of the recent Sadako changes. I think people are definitely over exaggerating those, because like it doesn't make sense, right? Like we talked about the add-on design. Why does Wesker get all these cool add-ons and almost near perfect add-on design, and why are my add-ons getting nerfed and my add-ons weren't even that great to begin with? You have a reason to be mad there, right? Killer mains have a reason to be mad in terms of like recent map design, because like I said, behavior at one point was like, yeah, big map's bad, and we're adjusting a lot of maps to be more or less frustrating for M1 killers, and then they're just like, hey, Toba Landing, suck it, I guess. It's like, where is the design philosophy? If they were just consistent with what they did and what they put out, we could all work with it. And love it or hate it, we could work with what they were putting out, because at least what they were doing was consistent. But like when it's just all over the place like this, of course everybody's gonna be upset because nothing makes sense here. Your game is RNG, your game design should not be RNG. That's what I'm gonna leave you off with today. Your game should be RNG, but your game design should not be RNG. That should not be random. So if they were more consistent, that would make things better. But what do you think? What do you think would actually fix Dead by Daylight? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, that's gonna be it for today's video, friends. But I do upload daily, so I will see you tomorrow. Other than that, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.